I now have the opportunity to introduce our Vice Chancellor, Rachel Stack. We're honored to have Vice Chancellor Stack join us today as well. Rachel was named Vice Chancellor for the University of Advancement and CEO of the SIUE Foundation in 2014, and we're so glad to have her join us today to provide some welcoming remarks and updates on SIUE. So please welcome Rachel Stack.
Thanks, Ryan. It's awesome to be here with you guys today. I'm so proud, the university is so proud of our distinguished alumni in this panel and how you are working to shape a changing world. So I'm looking forward to the conversations today. And this event is similar to other partnerships that we like to do with the community. And so I'll just punch out a couple of those and then get you going on your questions, which is what we're all here for. So we have a SIUE Successful Communities Collaborative. We also have a Madison County COVID-19 mobile testing site here. And most recently, and very importantly, we have created an Urgency of Now Anti-Racism Task Force, which has just been established. And we're very excited about all of those initiatives and all the initiatives that we work in the community, we do in the community. I just want to thank you all. I want to thank the YWCA for hosting this, and I would also like to thank the panelists for sharing their insights and their life experiences on today's panel. And back to you, Ryan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rachel. We're sincerely appreciate your support and leadership with the Alumni Association. Before we begin the panel discussion, we'd first like to recognize and thank the YWCA of Alton for their support of this event. They helped to promote it, as well as their honor of our distinguished alumni as well. The YWCA empowers women through various means by honoring women with the Women of Distinction Awards, now in its 30th year, by creating women's support groups such as Know Your Worth and Mother's Grief, by establishing both the Girls Circle program and Child Enrichment program, which supports working women with high quality child enrichment programs, and other various women empowerment activities. We are so honored to have a member of their leadership team joining us today who will offer some remarks about the history of the organization. So please join me in welcoming Executive Director of the YWCA of Alton, Dorothy Hummel. Dorothy?
Hi there. Thank you, Ryan. That was a nice segue about women's empowerment at YWCA of Alton. YWCA of Alton has been around since 1918, when we incorporated basically to assist women that were coming from the country, moving to the city in support of World War I war efforts. So at that time, YWCA rented space on Broadway Street in Alton, Holly Madison Hotel, and we provided housing, education, social, and recreational activities. By the Great Depression, it seemed like that need was continuing. So there were 8 women that took out a loan of $250,000 and built our current facility on 3rd Street in Alton and provided the same type of, as we entered World War II, housing, education, social, and recreational activities. So through the years, our missions changed. We don't house women currently, but we do provide women's activities and women's empowerment activities, as you mentioned. One thing that's truly important to us each year, we feel it's important to honor and recognize women achievers in the area. We have had something called the Women of Distinction program for the past 30 years, where we have honored roughly 260 women. Through the years, that program's changed somewhat, but we recognize women whose efforts, personal and sometimes professional, contribute to supporting our mission. So activities that address the elimination of racism, empowerment of women, are big key factors in who is selected. We also have chosen to acknowledge women for their efforts in improving their communities and providing positive social change that affects families. So every year, YWCA has a nomination package that goes out. There's a selection committee, and they evaluate the packages that come in. And sometimes we've had 30 to 40 packages that we receive. They make an announcement, and then we ordinarily would have a Women of Distinction Gala affair, which usually we have hundreds of folks attending. With COVID pandemic this year, unfortunately, we've had to cancel the Women of Distinction event. We tried to have it in April, we tried to have it in May, and now September. So we're really pleased and thanking SIUE for this event. We have 12 wonderful women this year, and delighted to see that 4 of them are SIUE alumni, but women of distinction deserve recognition, and we appreciate this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy, and thanks for the kind words for us putting this together. We appreciate you joining us, and as well as the honor that you bestowed amongst these 4 wonderful women. I'd now like to introduce Alyx Mark, who's an assistant professor of government at Wesleyan University and affiliated scholar of the American Bar Foundation in Chicago, Illinois. She received her PhD and MA in political science from the George Washington University in 2015 and her BA from SIUE. Her research focuses on American civil justice system. Her research has received the support of the National Science Foundation and has appeared in major academic journals and national news outlets. So someone who is much more equipped to develop or to facilitate this discussion than myself. But I'd like to turn it over to Alyx at this time. Alyx?
Thanks so much for the introduction, Ryan. So I would like to begin by introducing our panelists, and then we will get into our discussion. So our first panelist is Wendy Adams. Wendy is a 4-time alumna, earning a bachelor's and master's in elementary education in 1998 and 2005, respectively. She later earned an education specialist degree in 2017 and a Doctor of Education in Educational Leadership in 2019. Wendy currently serves as the Director of Human Resources for the Alton School District and gives back to her community in several ways, including serving on the YWCA of Alton Board of Directors. She is also a member of the Rotary Club of the River Bend, the Elijah P. Lovejoy Memorial, the Alton Education Foundation, the Urban League, and she's a past member of the National Council of Negro Women. Thank you so much for being here, Wendy. Our next panelist is Angela Gray. Angela earned a bachelor's and a master's in social work in 1997 and 2002, respectively, where she served as vice president of the Black Student Association and the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She also completed an education specialist degree in 2014. Angela currently serves as a social worker at Alton High School. She's the author of 2 books, Girl, Check That Attitude, and Help, I Have an Attitude Problem. Angela has helped create several outreach programs, including the Empowered to Be Me initiative, which includes bi-weekly girls group and teen conferences for girls at Alton High School, as well as the Pipeline to Success program. She has also created a step dance competition group called the A-Town Steppers. Thank you for being here, Angela. Our third panelist is Lisa Hayes. Lisa earned a bachelor's in business in 1996 and is currently a corporate auditor for the Boeing Company. Lisa's volunteer and philanthropy work extends throughout the Metro East and the greater St. Louis area. She has served as a chair for the successful United Way Power of Purse, which raised over $77,000 for the local community. Lisa has also served as a corporate volunteer for St. Louis Rebuilding, Georgetown Tiny House Village, the World Relief Organization, and the James S. McDonald USO. Thank you for being with us, Lisa. Our fourth and final panelist is Sherry McCrady. Sherry completed a bachelor's in sociology and speech communication in 2003. Sherry is the founder of Luminous Life Coaching in Alton and has helped create various programs and conferences focusing on empowering others. Sherry has introduced these programs through various collaborations with the YWCA of Alton, the Alton School District, the National Council of Negro Women, and the Alton Black Alumni Association, all in an effort to impact girls' self-worth, core values, and inner strength. Thank you so much for being with us, Sherry, and thanks to all of the panelists for being with us today. I'd like to note for our audience members that the chat feature is available if you would like to submit a question for our panelists. We're going to try and get to as many of your questions as possible during our audience Q&A. So to get us started, panelists, could you please share with us how SIUE helped to prepare you for your career today?
Well, if no one will go first, I guess I will. So attending SIUE, it provided a foundation for me to be an excellent elementary teacher, as well as then prepping me to be a successful principal, and then for my current role as the Director of Human Resources. Attending SIUE also afforded me the opportunity to expand my professional network with colleagues from various school districts in the Metro East area. As an educator, you're always wanting to grow and to improve professionally. And by attending school at SIUE locally, it allowed for collaboration with colleagues from other districts, where I was able to hear a variety of different perspectives on educational topics and initiatives, to reflect and to share experiences with one another. And all of those things, all of those opportunities allowed instructional leaders to be more intentional with their work. So to be more intentional with, communicating with parents, faculties, staff members, communicating with stakeholders, prioritizing students' needs, and just increasing collaboration among staff within buildings, and to make some more evidence-based decision-making abilities. Between the education that I received at SIU, it was a great education. I had some amazing professors. My top two, I think, are Dr. Pugner and Dr. Reeves. Love them both, think the world of them. And just many colleagues that I met along the way. I was able, for me, to build my capacity as an educational leader, while also maintaining my focus on being intentional with addressing disparities in the educational system related to disparate discipline, disparities of enrollment of students of color into upper level coursework, AP classes, dual credit course, honors courses, etc. And also now allowing me to create a staff that is more diverse, that resembles more of our student demographics in the Alton area. So essentially, SIUE, it allowed me the opportunity to remain in my community and to continually give back to the community that poured into me.
I'll go next. Hello. SIUE was home away from home for me. It was a great experience. I had a great foundation with the School of Social Work program at SIUE, and professors have really good professors. One professor that sticks out is Dr. Vanessa Brown. She is no nonsense, very caring, endearing person. She became one of my mentors. But her class, Social Work 315, I learned so much about myself and also about the field of social work and how to become a compassionate and caring social worker. So I'm very grateful. I had to take that class twice because the first time I just wasn't focused, doing all kinds of other things, activities, which is great, but I had to get my focus back on track, and she was one to help me do that. And also, so grateful for the Student Success Program with Dr. Erlene Patterson. That program, I believe it's called Student Success Center. Wow, I really would not have made it if it hadn't been for the Dr. Patterson and her leadership, and also the support that we received, the counseling and tutoring. And it was a really close-knit family, and I really appreciate that program. Learning from Dr. Portwood's class, she was another professor that sticks out. That was one of my favorites. Her Black History class, just talking and being able to really dialogue with people in the class and really be real about our feelings and how we felt. And then my involvement, I was a vice president of Black Student Association. I believe it's called the Black Student Union now. But, and also I was a very active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where I learned my passion for program development, learning how to speak, doing flyers, and just connecting with other people. So really, SIUE really refined me to the person I am today. I'm very grateful to have that experience.
Well, I guess I'll go next.
Oh,
You want to go,
okay.
Sherry? You go ahead, Sherry. I'll go after you.
The value that I got when I attended SIUE, I at that time had a family, and I didn't think that I was going to make it through because I had 3 kids and a husband. Yeah, I'll put an asterisk on the
Or a
husband
kid.
part. In another room. But anywho, but I just remember I'm the kind of person where when I get stressed out, I let others know, especially those who, you know, are over me. So I would go to my professors and say, you know, these are the things that's going on at home, and I'm trying to get through. And I just remember each one, especially in the speech communication department, shout out, didn't even know that was a thing, because when I started SIU, I thought I was going mass communication, and ran into someone who was taking speech. And I said, well, what is that? And I looked into it and I was like, that's where I belong. And it just fit the core of who I am. But getting the support that I did, just really from the department, of hanging in there and being encouraged. And I remember a couple of times bringing my kids to school and they were fine with that. So I know that in my journey to get to where I am today, I value that foundation that SIUE gave me. It felt very connected, very like home in a way. So it became a place where I could study. It could be a place where I could go and sit in, you know, my advisor's office and go, okay, I think I might make it. I think I might not. And just getting that support. So SIU, it served me on so many levels, even into me getting into my master's program for mental health therapy, as a mental health therapist. But that foundation really encouraged me not to give up. So, you know, I appreciate SIUE for that extra step and that boost of wind behind my wings that got me going. So thank you, SIU.
Oh boy, I get to follow that. Well, let's see. It's kind of funny where life takes you. You know, I graduated with a marketing degree and thought I was just going to go out there and do the communication and all the cool marketing things. And what I found is I ended up in contracts and pricing for the Boeing company. A lot of contracts, a lot of negotiations, a lot of plus and minuses, a lot of finance. And all of those classes that I took at SIUE that I thought, oh, probably wouldn't really drive where I was going to end up, became some of the most key factors in where I actually landed. And the good thing about that is I think that learning that maybe I thought I wanted to go into marketing, but in reality ended up someplace else in contracts and pricing, shows that I think you have to take chances. And I think that SIU teaches you that you need to be flexible. You have to be open to change. I think you have to embrace new opportunities, because opportunities are around us all the time if you have your eyes open. I also think that you have to make sure it's a right fit for you. So sometimes you have to make this list where there's pros and cons. What do I want to do? Do I want to go in this path? I also think you have to be, like I said, open to those. I think it's also important too that when you're out into the field, and I'm talking to a lot of the students that are out there, that sometimes there's going to be stumbles and there's going to be different obstacles in your way. Never give up. That's a great opportunity to learn from it. I have to say that I am no longer in a field that I am very used to. I decided at my age to go into something totally different. And that was like, everyone in my family thought I was nuts. They're like, oh my gosh, you're close to retirement. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't fulfill me anymore. I need something different. So always be open to learning, because there's so many key opportunities. One of the things I sat back and thought about last night are, what are some attributes that I really thought that I took from some of the courses or some of the things that happened at SIUE? And I came up with 8 of them. And first was, make sure that you do critical thinking. There are so few people out in today's world. They want their phone to answer the question. They want them reminded by somebody else. But this critical thinking in today's world is huge, you guys. Learn to be an excellent writer, because writing skills, speaking skills are so important. Exercise leadership. When you have the opportunity to be a leader or be a part of something where you can take a leadership role, make sure you take those. Don't be afraid. You build on leadership skills. This is a key one. Be a team player. Everybody needs to participate. Everybody has a voice. Really important that everyone is a part of your team and they feel included. Make sure you have goals. It's important. If you don't establish goals, you're just going to keep spinning in the same direction. And time management. That is huge as well. Make sure that you set time management, know where you're going, what you want to accomplish. Communication. Once again, I kind of mentioned that earlier, how important it is to have communication skills and have strong skills. And then last, I'm going to say, it's really important to get involved in your community. I know you have lots of things going on in the world today, especially with COVID, but there's so many ways that you can participate. So I wanted to mention that as well. But last, I want to talk about one thing in SIUE that I will never, ever, ever forget. And it was a marketing course where we got divided up into teams, and we were competing in the class to create an airplane company. And it was a computer software program that SIU had put together. And our job was to make sure that, you know, we had situational scenarios on purchasing aircraft, personnel issues, mechanical problems, you name it, entering new markets. We had to deal with this every single week, and we came back, and then the computer program would tell us where we are in our profit, losses, and revenue. And it was the neatest class ever, because it really taught you about not only some of the things that I mentioned, but leadership. It talked about, you know, team players. It talks about making sure that you had goals, making sure that you knew what you wanted to say, when you wanted to say, and when you wanted to move and when you didn't move in those financial situations. So it was a really cool class. I will never forget it. And I find it kind of funny that I end up in the aerospace industry, and I had that class, and it's one of the things I will never, ever forget.
Thanks so much, Lisa. So it's clear from all of your experiences the value of the community that we're building at SIUE. Hearing about your encouraging professors and support staff, the activities and the groups that you aligned yourself with, hearing about this foundation is really inspiring. Like Lisa said, this community encourages you to take risks and to seek out opportunities. So where did this lead you? Can all of the panelists please share with us your most proud accomplishment since attending SIUE?
And I actually asked my husband this, because I was like, oh my God, what have all, and so he said to me, there's been a consistency in your life. So what I believe SIU did was really elevate me in the ability to use my core values and my core mission, and that is making positive impact in other people's lives. And I don't know of any job or volunteering position where my focus was not on people and positive impact. I've worked in education in many capacities, as a summer school teacher, as a substitute in resources. I've worked with Angela we're working with young girls at the high school on self-esteem and self-confidence issues. I've created programs using poetry as therapy for girls to be able to open up, creating conferences and workshops for women with self-esteem. But I've also worked in relationships for family as a parent-child educator. You know, and now I work with probation groups through the agency Alternative Counseling, where we work with domestic violence. And during the pandemic, you're talking about a time where oftentimes our victims are stuck in situations they can't get out of. And where are those resources? So being able to know that SIU really lifted me up to the opportunities that I have now to continue to grow and continue to advance in my core mission and my core values. So that's really where I am, and it has been consistent in my life. I don't know, like Lisa said, I'm open to wherever life is going. I am open to learning. But I know that my mission and my value will always be positive impact on the people that I come in contact with.
Okay, so I guess for me, and I don't know if I can really narrow it down to one thing I'm most proud of since attending SIU, because I attended SIU for a very long time. So there was periods of time where I was there, then I wasn't, then I went back. And but I would say one of those things is that as a young mom, I didn't go back to school until after I had my daughter at the age of 21. And so having SIU close by allowed me the opportunity to still work on my education while also being a parent. And like, you know, one of the other ladies mentioned, you know, there's many days I didn't have childcare and she went to class with me. So that was just having a quality university that close was beneficial in that way. And, you know, I've raised an amazing daughter who is also committed to our community. You know, she's back home working as a nurse, so keep her in your thoughts and prayers, you know, during this COVID situation. But, you know, she's committed to staying here and giving back to this community as well. It has afforded me the opportunity to continue working with the youth in this area and just giving back in a lot of different capacities, whether it's opportunities where, you know, we're feeding individuals who need things or additional supplies that we're providing for them. And that's important to me because this is my hometown. It has, another thing that I'm most proud of since attending SIUE is just the social justice activism work that I have been able to do. And I guess since my last time finishing my doctorate at SIU, I'm most proud of coming back to the Alton School District. I was in a different district, but coming back to the hometown where I grew up in, the city that I live in, because I believe that the students in this community, they deserve the best possible education possible. And so I'm proud to be in a position where I have the ability to recruit and hire the best educators for our students. I'm in a position now where I can work to create a more diverse staff that is representative of our population. I'm blessed to work with some amazing administrators, and I have to toot our horn. Right now we have an all-female administrative team in the Alton School District, and I think it's amazing. And I'm proud to be a part of this team. I'm just proud to be part of a district that really puts community and students first.
I'll go ahead and go. I've had several proud things I've been proud of. For one, having a successful STEP team for 7 years at Alton High School. We started with some adversity because of racism, and we were able to overcome all of it. Winning awards, countless awards and STEP competitions, several, having over 100 students, hundreds of students over those 7 years go to college, become professionals, and seeing them just warms my heart. I did this along with Rosa Burton and Bengali, and we created a very family-knit, a family close-knit union, and I will forever be thankful for that opportunity. And then also, I always wanted to write a book, and I did a presentation in Atlanta at a National Girl Bullying Conference, and after that, I had all the resources together, and I said, I want to write a book. I always wanted to write one, so I did research on YouTube and different places, and so I wrote Girl Check That Attitude. Because of the girls that I will work with, I would counsel. Sometimes educators think that they have attitude, but we need to go deeper and find out why. Why do they have these attitudes? So I wanted to really write that book to educators. And then a second book I wrote, Help, I Have an Attitude Problem. It's for the girls, and it's a self-help book, it's a journal. And I did this group with about 7 girls at the high school, and it was very profound. They really received the information. I also did it at the Boys and Girls Club in Alton. And and also YWCA purchased several books for their girls group. So that was something that I'm very proud of. And it's published on Amazon. You can purchase it on Amazon.com if you ever want to look it up, or if you have any girls who have attitude problems and you want to work with them. And then also, I'm looking at my notes because I like to keep notes. I was very humbled to receive the Dr. Martin Luther King Scholarship, Dr. Martin Luther King Humanitarian Award this past February. It was a great honor to receive that. I wasn't expecting that. And so I was very appreciative of that. And also being a YWCA awardee. So I really appreciate those things.
All right, I guess I'll follow up with, and I have to say this, because you asked about our proud accomplishments, and I'm sure all of us want to say this, but I'm sure first it's our faith, our families, and our friends first. But after that, it definitely is probably, for me, it has to be that I am so blessed that I do not have to worry about where my next meal is coming from, or the water that I'm drinking, or the food on my back. So I'm very blessed, but there are so many people out there that are struggling with just those daily essential needs. And with that being said, I think it's so important for us to be able to understand where they're coming from. And that's where that community service of putting your feet in their shoes and understanding that. And it was mentioned in my introduction that I do things outside of the St. Louis Riverbend area, because a lot of times I travel with the Bone Company and I am in different parts of the US. And when I'm in different parts of the US, I don't stop with my community service. I had an unbelievable opportunity to work with some, they call it the Georgetown Tiny Houses. And these are actually building just a small building for people to have shelter out of the rain and the cold. And there is ramps and stuff for those individuals that are handicapped. And this is where they live. And it's to help these individuals transfer into a real home of their own. The other proud accomplishment had to do with the World Relief Community Service, where they actually are building gardens for refugees and immigrants, where they actually get to grow their own fruit and vegetables, and they get to share that with other people, and they get to network with each other there, and their families get to come there. And it's a place for them to go when they're in tiny apartments, or maybe even some of these village houses that are built for them. So they get to be outdoors, which is really, really important as well. In this area, I have to say that I noticed a need for a bunch of, and it's kind of funny, sometimes you really don't see things until it's brought to your attention, but we were cleaning out a whole bunch of files at Boeing. And we had all of these binders. I'm not talking a few binders from Boeing. I'm talking thousands of binders. And they're like, oh, just throw them into the trash. And I'm like, I hate to just throw things away, because I think there's an opportunity. Does somebody need these? So I reached out, because we're very close to the Ferguson Florissant school district. And they're like, well, we're not on your list. And I said, what do you mean you're not on the Boeing list? And they're like, yeah, you have to fill this piece of paperwork out. So I went with them. We filled out the paperwork with them, and they received all of these binders. Well, the good thing about that is that's the first step. The second step is they're on the list, which made my heart sing. So that means when there's computers or desks or stationery or things that Boeing has excess of, they have the ability to reach out and get those resources. So those are the things I'm very proud of. I'm proud of the fact that I've been nominated with these wonderful women, and it's been a pleasure to get to know them and understanding their story and their journey. And I think somebody mentioned that the need right now is huge, and I do believe that. COVID has put more stress on so many people, and I know it's hard. There's not a lot of ways you think you could volunteer, but I was talking to somebody just the other day thinking, okay, what can I do from my home, or what can I do that I'm at least comfortable with? And they gave me a whole bunch of ideas I had never even thought of. So I just thought I would throw them out here because I have the form to be able to do that. And they were talking about sending virtual cards to nursing home, to patients where they don't get, you know, that daily visitation from a family member, or maybe none. Helping people walk dogs or pick up groceries because they're afraid to get out. This is a huge one that I thought was really neat, is tutoring high school or grade school students, especially since a lot of them had to end a part of their education and they weren't able to catch the last couple months of school because they had to, whatever was taught to them at that point is where they just had to reinforce that learning. So here's an opportunity for a lot of people to help out with tutoring. And then last but not least, donating any kind of food or blood. I know that there's things out there as well, but I know it's tough times, but you know, always the tough get going. And anyway, I'm just really proud to be a part of the SIU family and also a part of Women of Distinction.
Thank you, Lisa. So what I noticed as the theme through all of your answers about your proud accomplishments is that your accomplishments were centered on your generosity. All of you mentioned accomplishments that are focused on your dedication to others. And it's abundantly clear that you're making a positive impact in so many other people's lives. So thank you so much to all of you for your responses to that question. Before we transition to the Q&A, can we talk just a little bit more about your field or your companies? However broad or narrow you want to answer this question, could you talk a little bit about something exciting that is going on in your field or in your organization?
I'll go first. So hopefully we will have our Empowered to Me Girls group attend SIUE to go on a tour. This past spring, due to COVID, it was canceled. So we were really looking forward to it. This will be our second time having our girls conference there. I'm working with Kelly Brooks with the admissions office. She's awesome, and her team, they were very awesome. But we really hopefully we'll have it in the spring, hopefully. But we have such a good time there. It's a great experience. And then my next thing, I have a new presentation coming out, the victimization and invisibility of Black girls, and talking about how Black girls are being victimized in our society, and that leads to them being invisible. So I want to really delve and go deep and talk about that, and how it presents themselves, and how the healing. Also talking about trauma informed and how they can heal from that. I'm presenting at Washington University in the summer. So I'm also open to other avenues as well to present. And then my next thing, I'm working on a children's book for premature babies. I had a premature little one. Her name is Amoria, and she's 5. But having that experience, I like to be very organized. So to have a baby 2 months early, then it was very scary situation. And now looking at her, you wouldn't even know she's a preemie. But the joy of our lives. And I'm working on a children's book to help other mothers to help them heal as they're going through that process. So that's something else I'm working on.
Well, I guess I'll jump in here. Let's see. The Boeing company has had a rough couple of years here. Actually, probably some of the roughest years of the existence, with the Mac software issues and then the COVID and the decline in the commercial aircraft, where people are getting on aircrafts and traveling to and from. But even though we've gone through a lot of tough times, Boeing still has done some amazing things that are going on. They have an employees community fund, and it is the largest employee-owned and operated community fund, and it contributes, I think it is $9.5 million to over 750 different organizations. They also have a matching fund, so the employees can donate to their community and nonprofit organizations, and they match it dollar per dollar. They also have been providing what they call the Future, which helps educators and also helps students that are interested in the STEM part of education. And they solve problems, and there's money for them to get them excited and inspire them to be future innovators. The next one also is their very echo for the environment. They're working hard to put sustainable air travel and natural resources, water control, and then waste management. So they're implementing all those. But one of the things that they've done recently that I'm very proud of is that they took a look at their diversity and inclusion and decided that even though they had policies and procedures out there, they didn't really have a truly really good format. So they started opening it up, and they acknowledged it needed work. They put key people together. They now have weekly forums, they have meetings, we have discussions. They've brought hard topics to life. We've had videos, the conversations going throughout the entire world about what it is really talking about, and educating people. And that to me has been probably one of the neatest things, and probably one of the things that I really feel that's exciting going on at Boeing, that instead of just stepping aside from it, they really are embracing it.
Awesome, Lisa. So I guess I'll go next. There's a lot of things going on. As you can imagine, it's probably the same for everyone in the field of education right now. Planning the best way to educate students while keeping students and staff safe during a pandemic, which is a challenge in itself, because you also want to keep the whole student in mind, as well as their social emotional needs, and not having students in person creates other challenges. You don't want students falling through the cracks. That there can be abuse that goes on undetected, because there's not eyes laid on those students on a daily basis. So kind of working through some of those avenues, and the best way for students to also get the support they need in that area, but then also for our special education students to still get the services that they need. So working through that is kind of exciting. It's as well as challenging, but it's also exciting that for educators who may have been in the field a little bit longer and are very young, not that comfortable with technology, is kind of forcing them to be, to get that capacity where their students are. So I think that's exciting as well. If you're familiar with Alton, we have some great construction projects that are going on right now that I'm very excited about. When students do return, our facilities are being updated. We have a beautiful new turf football field. If you haven't seen it, drive by it. It's great. New lights and things going on across the district, which is very exciting. And then additionally, the district does a wonderful job of partnering with community organizations, Madison County Urban League, the Boys and Girls Club, etc., to for different events, but as well as getting school supplies and things in the hands of our students, as well as in this time period, making sure that all students have access to technology for remote learning. for parents who don't have internet access, providing hotspots to those families that need it so that their students can get be online to get the education that they so deserve. So I'm excited about that. And then one thing that I'm super, super duper excited about is that we just recently hired Amy Golly to be the coordinator of educational programming and equity, which, like Lisa talked about, you have policies and procedures, but even some of those policies and procedures have some implicit biases related to them, or they may disenfranchise a certain group. So really taking a hard look, the district is committed to making our schools equitable for all students. So I'm very proud of that.
And I'm it. So the things that are going on that I definitely want to highlight is I've had the opportunity over the years, many years, to collaborate with the YWCA. Quite a few years ago, they had a program called Tools, and I worked with that. It was working with girls, young girls, middle through high school, I believe it was, and really enjoyed that. And it just keeps coming back to the Y. But I'm excited about where the YWCA is now. I was asked to come in and be a facilitator for the Girls Circle at the middle school. And I jumped at the opportunity because I had also ran a program through the Y that they welcomed and collaborated with me using poetry as therapy for girls. So I jumped at this opportunity, but they also invited me to work with them with putting together a conference called the Empower Women's Conference, where we talked about a multitude of things. But even through COVID, the YWCA did a parking lot closed giveaway. They continue to seek ways to service the community, whether it's through tutoring, whether it's, through child enrichment, but they continue even through these times to make sure that the community has needs and resources that they can actually provide. And I would be remiss, not only to be honored to be a nominee of Woman of Distinction, but not to be able to highlight all that the YWCA has done and continues to do, but on a much larger scale for our community. So I got to give kudos to the YWCA and what they are doing. I mean, it is phenomenal, and I would like to hopefully continue that they would seek me out to be able to be that support, because I see being able to collaborate further with opportunities on impact. Even with my agency, Alternative Counseling, I mean, we work with a diverse group of people, but I work with domestic violence perpetrators. And I'm really grateful, as crazy as it sounds. I used to work with domestic violence victims. I did that for 3 years, and then I started doing this. But my boss, Downey, who is also the owner of the business Alternative, she continues to provide us with resources and understanding in the midst of everything that's going on crazy, because now we're doing these services through Zoom, but we also are very cognizant, like Wendy said, we don't get to see our guys up close and personal, and we know the victims, even though it may be a spouse or a partner, the family is impacted, but they don't have that out that they once had. So being very cognizant of that and being in an agency that really focuses on how we can reduce or even open up a venue in which we can keep our victims safe, give our perpetrators tools and strategies to move from that mindset. I'm grateful for those opportunities. But being that I'm in a position to collaborate with these different agencies that really speak to my mission and my goals in my own life. So I really feel blessed for that.
Thank you so much, Sherry, and thanks to the other panelists for your responses to that question. So we are running out of time, so I'm hoping that we can keep the responses to the next question a little brief. That said, there are a lot of questions that are coming in through the audience Q&A that I'm hoping that the panelists would be willing to answer offline so that Nick could provide those responses to the attendees, because we have loads of really good questions. But the question that I would like to focus on for our last couple of minutes together concerns advice that the panelists might have for moms who want to advance their careers. So I've heard several of the panelists mention, so for example, Wendy, speaking of the many days that you did not have childcare, that you brought your kid with you to class, how do you deal with barriers that are related to, for example, limited childcare options or the cost of childcare, which may interfere with career advancement? So your brief responses, panelists?
Like Wendy, I had 3 children when I went back to school, and sometimes I had to bring them to school with me. 3. And my professors was like, hey, okay, go to the back of the room. I had a professor that would hand them snacks. So I had that support, but I think a huge blessing now is many schools now recognize that people are going to school later in life, they're switching careers, and now they're molding their education around those needs, those people who are still working full-time, or those parents who are seeking to advance in education. And I think being able to look for those resources that support your needs, where maybe you can do it in the evening at home with your laptop after you get the kids to bed or whatever it is. But I truly believe that the educational system is recognizing that the student needs have really changed.
And I'll try to keep my comment short too. So advice I would give them would be, look at places like the YWCA or aftercare avenues that are held at a lot of the different schools to help with childcare, or just take online classes. Whatever they do, don't give up on that dream, and keep pushing through that, because ultimately that's going to set the mark for your child of what you want them to achieve. So be that role model parent for your kids, so don't give up.
My takeaway is don't be too prideful to ask for help and resources, maybe from family members or friends. Maybe you guys can do an exchange of babysitting each other's children or something like that. So just don't be too prideful to ask for help.
And I'll just state everything they said is very true. Those resources are out there. Look for them, try to fit them in what works best for your family. And I remember I had children too, and I had a friend who had kids, and we took classes on opposite days so that, and I took care of her kids on Mondays and Wednesdays, and she had my kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So sometimes you just have to pull, like They were mentioning all the resources you can to figure out what you're going to do so that you can achieve your dream.
There we go. Thank you all for that. And you know, we got lost a little in that discussion because it was so great that the hour expired on us quicker than we anticipated. So thank you for keeping us going. Thank you, Alyx, for leading our discussion. And thanks, Nick, for pulling those extra questions, sending them to our panelists. We appreciate you responses to those offline, and that we can get those sent back to our participants. Again, thank you to Angela, Wendy, Sherry, and Lisa. It's truly an inspiration to hear from you and all that you've accomplished, even in just this short amount. I'm sure we didn't scratch the surface to all that you are about and are continuing to do in your communities, but we do appreciate your time being here. And thank you to all our guests attending. Being as kind of our first go at this panel, it was great to see the response and the participation. I think I counted close to 50 plus that were in here, so that is awesome to see. And I think it's because of the 4 panelists we chose to be on this, and what you've accomplished is what drove those individuals to join. They certainly did not come to hear from me in this panel. There will be a survey that we'll send out to all of you that will go out. So when you get that survey, please fill out those responses. I think there'll be a question there if there's future types of these events that you'd like to see and topics. So please fill that out and send that. And then the recording will come along with that. So this recording, if you want to go back and check in on a response, you'll be able to do that. But we will send the recording. I think it takes a little bit of time, Nick said, for that to download. So you may not get that survey for a day or so from now. But thanks, Nick, for saying that out. Just want to mention another upcoming event from the SIUE Alumni Association, and that is our Cougars Unleashed virtual homecoming run. And that's going to be on September 20th and the 26th. So during that time, so be on the lookout for more information on that. It's an exciting event. I think it's going to be just as great virtually as it has been in the past in person. So we encourage everyone to take advantage of that opportunity as well. And with that, I just will leave it to say thank you all for attending. Thank you, panelists, for taking part in some of your day. We really do appreciate your time and look forward to maybe future partnerships with you in the future where we can have you involved in other events as well. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for joining.